So I'm super inspired. I had to share a little bit of what just happened today. So I was asked to do a presentation for a couple people that just joined the business. And, one of them is a really big, he has an incredible entrepreneurial background of over 30 years. He's made tons of money. He doesn't do anything for money. He's long since retired, but he also runs this gigantic charity and helps like hundreds and thousands of people that need help. He's just this incredible entrepreneur, incredible guy. So we're going to start this presentation, and the first couple was they share their story, and then they're going to introduce him, and then he's going to introduce me, and then I do the presentation. So the first couple, and I'm keeping names off so I can like share their stories like without attaching it to someone. So the first couple was like, she found it from her sister. She like, my sister told me about this. And I was like, what is this? And like, she didn't want to see any business and look at some online thing. And the more she looked at it, she was like, this is really different. This is really special. And then these are her words. I ran to go get my credit card and quickly just made the purchase. And I thought I was listening to like a weird sales hack or something. This is just like literally what happened. She wasn't trying to be tricky with words or anything. She's like, and she's awesome human being, but she's like, ran to get the credit card, and I just joined really quickly. And then her husband, he was like, what the heck are you doing? And then as he's looking at it more and more, they're just getting super excited, and it's this amazing thing, right? So they talk to this really influential entrepreneur that's been successful forever. So this guy then comes on and he shares some of his background. And I only knew some of it. I didn't know all of it. And I was like, this is really amazing. This guy is incredibly like established. He's older than me. He's been retired. He's an amazing, like, I look at him even like a role model. Him and I have already talked some where we already know we're going to be really good friends and hang out for years. We both know that already. So it's super cool. But I was there as the guy he's about to bring on after him sharing some of his background. And I was like, well, I better knock this thing out of the park because this is not playtime here. These people are deadly serious about impacting other people's lives. But I didn't take that as like pressure. That was pressure I could have put on myself. I didn't end up doing that, but it there was a thought for a second. And then I just reconnected to all of them talked about where their hearts are at, and they are here to impact other people's lives. And I'm like, these are my people. And I think I started off the whole presentation like that. And so I went through some slides and all this stuff, but that's not the important part. The important part is what this guy shared. And as he's giving his whole background, it's like super, super impressive. And then he's like, guys and gals, there's only a handful of you here, but then there's a whole bunch of you that are going to see this recording. And this might be the very best thing I've ever seen in my entire career, 30 years as an entrepreneur, and probably that I will ever see, something like that. And I was sitting there and I was like, I've heard this before. And I first heard it right in here, right coming out of this mouth. And then I heard it a little more from a few more people the next day or two. And then I heard it a little more and a little more. And so what I've seen is a significant number of people who they check this thing out. They're kind of looking around, they're feeling it out. At some point they might get curious enough to lock into the power line spot, which they may or may not know then timestamps them. And the earlier timestamp you have, the more priority when you go to get placed in the matrix if you do choose to join later. But so people kind of like test it out. Sometimes they'll pre-enroll. Sometimes they didn't realize they even secured a free spot by doing that. And then some people don't pre-enroll because they didn't realize that has an advantage to doing it. But at some point, pre-enroll, and then at some point it's like, okay, this sounds really good. Let me check out a webinar. And a lot of people, they just go watch the 6 minute after they pre-enroll. They watch some of the videos and stuff in the back office. A lot of people just join. They already know it's amazing. But then 3 times a week, we also host webinars for people to hear the whole presentation, kind of like the presentation I was giving to this group. And this guy shares, this is probably the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire entrepreneurial career. What he didn't even tell them, what also had him come out of retirement to build this business. And here's where this gets freaky and crazy, is that when I said I've heard this before, because I've now heard it from well over 100 people, at least 100 separate conversations or Zooms or meetings or chats. And the really important part, and this is where I want you to pay close attention, is because I've had this really fortunate, this is the biggest thing that's happening in my entire 19 years online. And I've been blessed to talk to 6 and 7 and 8 figure income earners all around the planet. So many dozens of them I have completely lost track. But what's crazy is the things that I'm hearing them share. The ones that, maybe not in their first exposure, they'll just try to shoot a bunch of holes in it. And then the more stuff they're learning, they're like, this sounds really good, I'll join. But the most important part is in the hours and the days to come. I've heard from so many top earners around the industry and so many influential leaders and so many people with decades of entrepreneurial experience, both inside and outside of network marketing. And it's freaking amazing. I don't think I've ever talked to this many highly successful people ever in my collective life. And I seek that stuff out all the time. I think I've talked to more influencers and people who have done big things in their life and people that I want to model things around and people that could, be a great example of making a big impact and change in the world. I think I've talked to more people in the last 5 weeks and 2 days than in my entire almost 50 years on this planet. And because that's like compressing time and compressing wisdom. Because when you keep hearing from people who have the success you want, and they have multiple 6-figure per year, multiple 7-figure per year kind of incomes. And when you keep hearing from them, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I'm changing all my life. I'm literally I'm dropping my other businesses. All focus is going here. Now, sometimes it takes days or weeks to get to the point I'm saying, but I'm watching it again and again and again like clockwork. Most people who are seasoned in business, they get it really fast. And that was such a bad snap. This one is really good. See how much better that one was? So these people, they all have vast experience, and it's not just crazy Jason saying and seeing and feeling, this is the best thing I've ever seen. It's not just me, and it's not just Pete. It's Aaron and Matt and Rachel and Vin and Boris, and I should have never stopped. At least there's so many people. Don, and I don't want to stop now. Christy, Eric, I'm trying to stop. I could just keep rattling off. These are all people who are like an important part of my life in these past 5.5 weeks, and some of them have been important for a long time, and some of them are brand new to me. And it's so, you're seeing the same thing come from tons and tons of people. I'm shifting things around in business, in life, personal life, work life, or whatever, so I can be more serious about building this business, because I know this will help me save money, and I know it'll help my loved ones save money, and I know this is not like selling at all. It's the easiest thing I've ever done, and I just point people to this site, they enter name and email, and everything takes over. And with the new AI that will be released any day now, it will call, text, and email the people for you, so you don't even have to do any follow-up or selling or anything, because you and I both know most of us are never going to go do that stuff. If any follow-up I have, it's all automated. I don't chase people ever, but I'm excited for the AI to help me do all the heavy lifting. So, hope this serves you well. Incredible freaking things are happening here.